So I have noticed that um, our entire human universe comes down to two things essentially: choices and beliefs. Choices are really the only control we have over our own personal realities that we experience within our collective reality. Choices are what gives us power, and choices are what give other people power. And we either have, the belief that we can take accountability for our own choices and make our own choices, or we believe that we're not accountable for all of our choices and we give a lot of that power up. A lot of people believe that they can't be completely self-sustained or autonomous without giving up some of their choices to other people. And this simply isn't true in any society, in any position in the world. The most powerful people are the ones that don't rely on anyone or anything or any system to define their choices, to define what is right for them as an individual. And this contradicts a lot of what people believe. So the irony is if you want to become a master of your choices, you need to start with becoming a master of your beliefs. Realize where beliefs come from. So beliefs start out as personal. All beliefs start out as personal beliefs. Every single belief in the world started as a personal belief. But we tend to believe that beliefs are something that collectives opt into, some sort of greater truth that came from God, that came from, something more perfect than us. But literally every belief started with one person's personal beliefs, one normal person's personal beliefs, all of them. And this upsets a lot of people just to hear this inconvenient truth. It triggers them very, very much to hear that all truths, all beliefs started out as some average person's personal beliefs. But if you can make it to this point without getting upset that all belief systems started out as one Joe Schmo's personal beliefs, you can be open-minded to how that happened. So the best way for us to believe in something we don't know how to believe in yet, most of us need, we need to know something works. So it's really hard to take the risk and believe in something enough to accomplish it, to discover an unknown. Think of it like an adventurer. If an adventurer doesn't believe that they're going to get to the place that they're going, if they do it long enough, chances are they will expire before they get to that destination. It is almost like essential. It's logically essential for them to almost believe, like a delusion, that they are going to accomplish what no one else has done, that there's no proof has ever that can be done. And that's it. Their belief defines reality. This is not true in every single scenario. I mean, if it's your belief that you can fly, but you don't take logic or reality into the equation, you'll never be able to accomplish what you actually need to accomplish to fly. For example, if the difference between a delusion and a vision is I'm going to do it exactly how I imagine it, rather than I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it happen. That's the difference between somebody fantasizing of flying like Superman and somebody who wants to fly so much that they go to flight school, they become a pilot, and they do whatever they need to figure out how to fly, if it's, invent a jetpack or become a pilot, become an astronaut. That's what it really is using logic as your tool to accomplish your dream, whatever that looks like. So what does that look like if you're not trying to, go to outer space or fly 30,000 feet? What does that look like on a basic day-to-day level? How do you become master of beliefs in your reality, your personal reality that we all live in our own personal realities among our collective reality? How do you master beliefs? Well, that's number one. It's up to you to decide. I can only share with you my personal story of mastering beliefs, but what I found is it's not uncommon to find the same rhythm, the same rhyme, the same pattern in personal stories of what it actually takes to master your beliefs. And for example, in our path to master our beliefs, to master the beliefs in our reality, we have to first understand that we often believe things that are lies, that we didn't know were lies, that the people who were teaching us didn't know were lies, because these are lies that have been told for a very long time. And we live in an odd time in human civilization where we have an internet that is completely outside of the masters of history's control. And that's really, really powerful, because for the first time ever, do we have a system to catalog history that isn't used as a political power chip. The most powerful people are the ones who make history, who keep history for the masses. It's been like that since the beginning of civilization. If you want power, you control history, because those that control history control the minds of all the peoples who believe in that history. That's why the history of people who lived in the Soviet Union was different than the history of the people in the United States when the Soviet Union fell. And that's why when we hear about, the history that people in North Korea believe is different than the history that everyone else believes, like, we start to see the power in controlling history. And the internet is this neutral history, unbiased history machine by allowing all histories on it. And that's never happened before in any sort of library that collects history. So we have to understand that all beliefs are equal. All of them. All that requires a belief to become the truth is for more than one person to believe in somebody's personal belief. That's it. That's literally it. The difference between a personal belief and beliefs as we know them is more than one people buy into a personal belief. So it starts out as one person's personal belief. Like Ben Franklin's personal belief became multiple people's personal belief. He guided them all to having a similar enough personal belief to him, where it was this collective belief of a free nation, to where it manifested into all of these individual but aligned personal beliefs that became this American belief system. And this is true in every situation, every religion. Like Jesus Christ did this with his acolytes. Like it was his personal belief, and then other people believed in him, and it became their belief, the belief of the Christians, and it spread to be more people's beliefs. And the reason things like these spread is because they're better than somebody's personal truth. It's better than what they know. And that's it. They learn how to become better. It's like self-help books. It was like, a self-help book of 2,000 years ago, and the Declaration of Independence was like a self-help book for, British American colonists. Like that's what these belief systems always intend to be. But then we forget about our own personal beliefs, and we usually sacrifice those to conform to other personal belief systems. So first and foremost, it's important to recognize that in order to become master of your beliefs, you have to be comfortable listening only to your personal beliefs long enough to figure out what does and doesn't work for you. And newsflash, when you first do this, the self-control, like the amount of control you feel like you have over yourself is immense and intoxicating. So it's really easy to get hooked on that feeling of my way goes, like whatever I believe in, and then we tend to lock ourselves into this delusion that anything goes forever. And that's not true. Like, we're creatures of habit, creatures of routine. So it's really important to understand that there are some things that actually work for us, and that other things that are just, we have that belief freedom that are unsustainable. And it's a lot like the intoxication that comes from, youth that start drinking for the first time. They love it so much, they want to go out all the time. And like, they may party from like a good part of their adult life, but then usually by like 27 to 30, like they realize it's unsustainable. And that's really what's happening with a lot of the world. They're waking up to their own personal beliefs. They like the idea that they can define things and redefine things at any time. But eventually they're going to realize what, any adult realizes in any situation where they get to the point where they're completely autonomous. And that is being able to believe in anything you want isn't as important as understanding what you need to believe in to take care of your basic needs. And then at that point, your wants seem less important, and then your wants start to be defined by your needs first. You no longer need what you want what you need. And that is a really interesting process that most people don't get to anymore, which is quite surprising because, we're a very educated world. There's an abundance of education. I mean, the internet is a great place to self-educate, but because we aren't taught these fundamental things like how to identify our needs, how to maintain a rigid schedule for our needs and make everything else variable, literally everything else, whether it's, our social beliefs, our societal beliefs, our religious beliefs, make all those variable. We tend to sacrifice our personal needs that we need for, physical survival, like mental survival, all those things. We tend to sacrifice those to conform to other systems of belief. So first and foremost, if you are in that transition stage where you're trying to figure out how to become master of your beliefs, it's important to recognize that you're not going to know what you need to know to believe the things that you want to believe. So how do you change from wanting to believing something to believing something? That's quite simple. It's counterintuitive. It's definitely counter-conditional to the societies that we live in, but it's literally feeling like you're lying to people who are willing to believe in you rather than some idea you represent to them. You tell them what you want to believe, and they help keep you accountable just by believing what you want to become. And then you figure out a way to either let them down or let yourself down. And if you, depending on which one you choose, it either will make you feel more alone or make you feel more, like a liar. But there's a third option, a hidden option, that if you can resist both of those two options that seem like the only option and have this self-mastery to choose neither, you will start to realize that you become what you believe. And these other people see you achieve what you believe. And that's it. You realize you don't have to confess to them that you don't know what you're doing. You don't have to confess to yourself that you don't know what you're doing and give up and push them away or push yourself away from them. Like, there is that third option that we were never told about. and that's to resist both of those options. And the natural consequence of doing so will be to transform yourself. It's not by finding a to-do list or some sort of like checklist or rule book. Like, you find it within. You find it within, and you find it through inspiration in the world around you, not taking the easy ways out that come to mind where it seems like a no-win situation. It's literally resisting the losses and leaving yourself open to finding that win, because the answers are around you all the time. But most of the time we're so distracted by fear that we don't see the answers that are, screaming in our face all the time. And that's because we're not really focusing on anything other than fear until we realize that fear is always wrong, unless it can get us to rush things and, do things the way it's telling you to do things. And if you can just have that patience to survive past that point of no survival that fear is telling us exists, is just impending, and those are the only options we have, or we don't survive. If we call fear out to be the liar, we realize that it's this process of figuring out what our personal beliefs are, finding people that can hold us accountable, even if they don't know that they're holding us accountable, but people that we don't want to let down, and people who won't shame us or guilt us. It can be literally new people we've met in our life. That's it. People who just don't know any better with us. And that's it. They will help keep you accountable by just talking to you about what you're doing, and you're on that path, and you invent a belief structure, people who believe in your personal beliefs, even if they're technically a lie, but your goal is to make them truth. And this is possible with beliefs that are within the reach of human beings and not outside the realm. It's not saying if I can get 1,000 people to believe in me and, give me money, that we'll all be able to fly. No, that's hope and dreams, pie in the sky, sort of man in the sky salesman technique. And that's not the same thing. It's if you want a personal goal that other people are able to achieve and you want to achieve it, and it can be your next choice if you just understood yourself well enough to figure out how to do that. And by doing so, you may realize that you accomplish it, or you figure out that pathway to get there. You figure out that you were trying to skip a few steps, and you become aware of what those are. And then you set a path in motion to accomplish that. Or you may realize that, oh no, you don't have the skill sets to do that, but now you're aware of the people who do have those skill sets. So you bring them into your life, and you ask them for help. And that's what it is. It's realizing you engineer a way, literally by being open-minded enough to let those answers come to you, whatever they may look like. And that's what it is to engineer your beliefs, engineer your personal beliefs, how to use other people's belief in you for you to be able to accomplish the unknown, the things that you can't know, that you don't feel like you can do, and to do your own personal impossible. That's it. It's that simple. It's that crazy. It's the science of paradox. And if you can do it without that crutch of knowing that it can be done, because when it comes to you and your own personal truth, your own personal story, there is no scientific proof, there is no logical proof that it can be done. That's why it's the science of paradox. It's using a logical construct to navigate these logical fallacies that our believing brain buys into, and navigate these pit holes. Because we think, oh, if I just follow the same path somebody else does, it'll work. But then we fall into these pit holes. And they may not have had the same pit holes as us. So if we can have this logical construct to continuously check, heuristics and for logical fallacies, then we can navigate our own personal truth. And this is what it sounds like. Like, if you don't understand, logical frameworks, if you don't understand logical fallacies, if you don't understand heuristics, this is all going to sound like magical voodoo. It's going to sound unscientific as marketing is to, psychologists. It's bullshit to a lot of them. They don't understand paradox. It's just as illogical as sales is to scientists who, don't understand how to, do the things they need to do to get the attention that they need. Like, the science of paradox is very, very real, but we live in a world that's villainized paradox because some people manipulate people based off of paradox. That was a very popular thing to do for a very long time in human civilization, is to manipulate people off of these paradoxes. But being aware of paradoxes is better than making the paradoxes bad. It's better to keep them neutral, or else we get blinded by our own personal bias and hatred that we've been ingrained to have for paradoxes, for biases. And it's not that we should believe in our biases, that we should believe in paradoxes. We should just be aware of them and look for that logical path around our own personal paradoxes. That's the science of paradox. That's it. It's not logical. It's realizing that we are irrational beings learning to become more rational. So on that path, we have to account for irrationalities that are unavoidable as long as we're still human. And that's it. It's that simple. And yes, it does sound like voodoo if you don't have this open mind to understanding that there's more to life than just logic, that there is also paradoxes. And if you don't take that into account, you fall into your own, logical paradox of thinking that nothing else is possible other than what you know how to know. And that's it. That's why people dissent that. Like, if people disagree with this, they're falling into their own personal pitfall. They think other people's personal truths can't be true because their personal truth has not given them evidence to believe in that. And that's the irony. They are living proof that they subscribe to paradoxes, when the science of paradox is how to unsubscribe from paradoxes.